It's one of the tallest, most expensive, and most record-shattering buildings in the entire world. And yet, chances are you've probably never even heard of it. So today, let's get into the absolutely wild engineering story of the Makkah Royal Clock Tower. Just think about that for a second. We're talking about a building that would completely dominate the skyline of any city you can think of, from New York to Tokyo. But it stands in a city that many of its own creators could never, ever visit. And the cost? You're not going to believe this. A staggering $16 billion. That's billion with a B. So you can see this was never just about building a hotel. It was about creating a true modern icon. Okay, to give you a sense of scale here, let's talk about that clock. Its face is a mind-bending 35 times the size of London's Big Ben. 35. It is hands down the biggest clock on the planet. But the most incredible story here isn't its size, it's how the whole thing almost never happened. Right, let's get to the real drama of this project. It all kicks off with a crisis that honestly threatened to bring the whole thing crashing down before it was even built. A sudden and what seemed like an impossible change of plans. So here's the deal. Construction starts back in 2002 for a tower that's supposed to be about 450 meters tall. But then, partway through, and this is the crucial part, with the foundations already poured and set in the ground, the client has a new vision. This thing needs to be a grand 600-meter-tall minaret. The problem? You can't just slap an extra 150 meters on top of a skyscraper when its foundations are already done. It just doesn't work like that. And this is where the physics of it all just gets, well, brutal. The foundation they had could only support 82,000 tons. Now, look at a skyscraper of a similar height, like the Shanghai Tower. That weighs 575,000 tons. The engineers were basically asked to build something just as tall with less than 15% of the weight. It was a complete engineering nightmare. So, how do you solve a problem that seems impossible? Well, you look to history for a little inspiration, and the team found their answer in one of the most famous structures ever built. Their solution was brilliant. They decided to basically put the Eiffel Tower on top of a skyscraper. Yup, they turned to Gustav Eiffel. See, his famous tower used an iron framework that was unbelievably strong, but also incredibly light. And it distributed its weight perfectly. The engineers decided to take that exact same principle, but use modern, high-strength steel for the top of the Makkah Tower. And the solution they came up with was just ingenious. First, they designed this ultra-lightweight steel framework, almost like the trunk of a giant steel tree. They placed it on top of the already finished concrete hotel portion, and then they built the clock and the spire around this internal skeleton. And to get the weight down even more, and this is so clever, they designed the floors in the new section with massive holes in them, which also created these huge open spaces for things like art exhibits. Just an elegant solution born from a massive, massive problem. But solving the weight problem, that was just one piece of the puzzle. The project was up against another huge challenge, and this one was all about people and logistics. It completely changed how this icon was actually built. So here was the next giant hurdle. Mecca is, of course, a sacred city, which means only Muslims are allowed to enter. Now, think about the implications of that. It meant that many of the world's top experts on the project, the German clockmakers, the Polish glazing specialists, even some of the lead architects, could never, ever set foot on the construction site. Just try to wrap your head around that. You're designing one of the most complicated buildings in history, pouring years of your life into it, and you might never get to see it in person. This quote from the lead architect just says it all. They literally had to build it in their minds, using nothing but data, drawings, and their own imagination. Their workaround was nothing short of incredible. What they did was they essentially rehearsed the whole construction in Dubai. They built and tested massive sections there first. We're talking a full quarter of the clock face, facade panels with millions of mosaic tiles laid by hand, and even the final crescent spire. Then they loaded these huge finished pieces onto trucks and drove them across the desert on a 3-day journey to Mecca for the final assembly. Amazing. And all of this leads us to the final, heart-stopping moment of construction. A moment where all the planning, all the remote work, all that brilliant engineering, it all came down to one single, incredibly nerve-wracking lift. The final piece of the puzzle was the crescent. This thing was a 75-foot-tall, 35-ton structure made of carbon fiber, and it wasn't just for looks. Inside, it would hold the highest prayer room, office, and meeting room on the entire planet. This wasn't just a component, this was the crown jewel of the entire project. So picture it. You're almost 2,000 feet up in the air. The crane is stretched to its absolute maximum limit, both for height and for weight. There is zero room for error. And just as they start the lift, the wind kicks up. That 35-ton crescent just started spinning, totally out of control in the wind. According to one person on the team, people were getting physically sick from the stress of watching it. The crane driver was getting screamed at over the radio from every direction. I mean, for a terrifying few moments, the culmination of the entire project was just hanging there, literally, in the balance. But they did it. Somehow, they managed it. Using ropes, the crew on top steadied the whole thing and guided it perfectly into place. The lift was a success. The tower was complete. And right there, in that moment, a new world record was set. The highest occupied man-made space on Earth was officially in place. So after all that, what is the legacy of this incredible building? Well, it's about a lot more than just a collection of world records. It's a structure with a really unique and profound purpose. Now, while the Burj Khalifa in Dubai is taller overall, the Makkah Tower holds this really unique record. Its highest occupiable floor, way up there in the crescent at a staggering 600 meters, is higher than any other skyscraper on the planet. This project was also just a massive feat of global collaboration. At its peak, you had over 17,000 workers from more than 10 different countries on that site, all of them Muslim, coming together from across the globe to build an icon for their shared faith. And you know, that might be the tower's real legacy. In a world that can feel so divided, here you have a structure built by people from every corner of the Islamic world. Like one of the project leaders said, its real value might just be its power as a symbol of unity. And unlike so many modern megaprojects that get a ton of hype and then are kind of forgotten a month later, this tower has a totally different destiny. Because of its location, because of its purpose, it's quietly and permanently weaving itself into the very fabric of the city and into the lives of millions. Which really leaves us with one last thought. In this age of viral videos and fleeting digital fame, could this skyscraper, a building largely unseen by the Western world, designed by people who couldn't even visit it, and built against impossible odds, could it actually become one of the most enduring and permanent landmarks in modern history?